Okay, we're here at the Leisure World Library's book fair, and this is
Blackie Noir.
Hi, Blackie. And how many books have you written?
I've written 3 complete novels and 1 collection of short stories.
What's your inspiration? How do you get going?
I've always loved to read, and as the years went by, reading wasn't enough. I decided to try my own hand at it, and once I started, that was it. I love it, and I continue to write. Have
you been doing it all your life, or just recently?
About 14 years now.
14 years. And your first novel, was that hard to get into, to write?
Not really. When I started it, by the time I hit 70 pages, I knew I would finish it, and I knew I had found something that I love to do, and it really flowed. It was
What's your procedure like? I know some authors have it all planned out even to the very end, and some just come, as it comes to you, you write. So what's your procedure?
Okay, usually among writers there's a term for someone who has it all planned to the end. They're called a plotter, and someone who lets it just flow is called a pantser. Meaning they let it flow by the seat of their pants. Me, I'm a pantser. I come up with an idea, and then I come up with a protagonist, a main character. And as I start to fill my characters out, I put them together with an idea of the direction they're heading. After that, it's kind of funny, but it's like I'm watching the characters act out, and I just write what they do. So it writes itself, basically.
Generally, would you say you're a very serious writer or a comedic writer, or what's your genre?
My genre is suspense, crime, thriller, mystery. I try to inject a little humor into it here and there, but it's usually humor of a darker nature. But I would just say suspense thrillers is what I write.
Can you hold up your books and show the camera what your different books are?
This is the first novel I wrote. Do you have that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. It's called Blacktop Sticks, and that's my first novel. It's about a man who's led a very hard life. He's a hard man himself. He finds out that he has a daughter, and turns out she's 23 years old. He never knew about her, and it turns out she's in a very bad situation, and the book is about him coming to her rescue. That's my first novel.
That's neat.
Okay.
Okay, and then your second novel is?
This one is called Requiem for the Widowmaker. It's a suspense thriller, crime novel, and this was actually inspired. I saw a police chase many years ago live on TV, and it was very dramatic the way it ended, and I thought, what if I had based a character on that chase but made her a female instead of a male? And so it follows this woman as she solves a particular case which has roots in her violent childhood.
Nice twist. Now, do you have the same characters from book to book?
No, I do not. No,
All
I
right.
do not.
So now, what's your next book?
Okay, this was my third novel. This is really in the noir tradition. It's very dark. It's very bleak. The people are nasty people, and they come to pretty nasty ends. But this is my third novel, and if I had a favorite, this is probably the one.
All right, and what's your next one?
Okay. This is a collection of short stories. These were written over the course of 15 years or so, and they are all different subjects,
Fredwin, yes, I've been here 10 years.
All right. And when did you start writing?
I started writing when I was in college, kind of, and I've dabbled in writing. And but when we moved to Leisure World 10 years ago, after I retired from teaching, and I joined the Creative Writers Club. And we've had a great time meeting twice a month. And
And how did you get this started with this book?
This is a book of poetry called From Minutes to Decades. And the title comes from the fact that when I was a school teacher, I was a secretary of the staff, and I always took minutes of boring staff meetings. And so the minutes were sort of boring too. And I started to just add a poem to the end of the minutes. I'll just make up a poem and add it to the minutes. And so when I retired, a bunch of years later, people said you ought to put these together in a book. So that's what I did. So this is my first self-published book. And so from minutes to decades, the fact that these came from my minutes, and I wrote them for decades.
Get this title.
And this is The Queen of Holland. Holland is my native country, and it so happened that I was invited to a reception for Queen Beatrix and Prince Klaus. They were at a reception in Los Angeles, and I was invited by the mayor of Bellflower, who knew that I could speak Dutch and, you know, drink tea like this, more or less. So that's what the main poem is about, meeting her at that reception. The main poem of these are basically experiences as a teacher. It's always good. This is a collection of short stories called The Hilarious Tales of Leisure World. So they're supposed to be hilarious, but I'll leave that judgment up to the readers. The reason I added the word hilarious was so that people would know it's fiction and it's not historical stories about Leisure World. But these are funny stories about things that happen in Leisure World. The guilty are protected because I changed the names, but you might recognize yourself in here. You would be one of the nice people, of course.
Oh, that's great. Fiction based on truth.
That's short stories, yeah.
Hello, can you please give us your name?
Hi, I'm Pat Leigh Wilson. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And when did you start writing?
I was about 8 years old when I learned to read. I learned to write. I think the worst day of my life was when I learned that books are written by human beings. I thought they came from heaven or something, so I figured I had to write if books were made by human beings, and I've been writing ever since, on and off. You know.
Oh, that's great. And how many books have you published?
Just these two. This is Poems from the Heart, and it's a compilation from the 60 poems I've written since I moved out, the Casserole Ladies at Leisure World. And it was published in our newspaper. It seems to be a hit, but there are happy poems and sad poems, a little bit of everything. I love poetry.
Oh, that's great. And your other books?
This is Lola from Leisure World, and she's named after my mother. And Lola moves to Leisure World and she joins the garden club. She dances with ballroom. She goes, she does the hula and all the typical things, but it's a fairy tale because in the end, she finds a man. This is Lola. And there are pages and pages of the clothes she wears in her various outings. But I also love paper dolls very much. I have a collection of about 600 paper doll books. And if anybody would like to buy old paper doll books, please contact me. I'm in the directory, Pat Leigh Wilson. I have 14 file drawers worth of paper doll books, and I don't have room.
Oh, okay, all right. So can they contact you through the library or the phone book?
A phone book.
Here, I hope that comes out. Your color here, I love that.
Well, I was a clown occasionally, but more a puppeteer for 40 years. And I did birthday parties for children and churches and nurseries, preschools. I was also in the first Muppet movie. Yes, Jim Henson hired 125 LA puppeteers to go to Hollywood. He spent a full day filming 20 seconds on film, and I was a featured player because I was tall and skinny in those days, and I got to play the back half of the camel in the Muppet movie. If you watch the movie, I twitch my tail. But I've had a great life inside and outside of Leisure World. I was a phone psychic for a while. I was an actress at a hospital teaching doctors how to diagnose patients.
Wow.
It's been a wonderful lifetime, and it's still going strong. Thank you very much.
Well, you're an inspiration. Thank you. Okay, please tell us your name.
My name is Betty Decline Smith.
And when did you start writing?
Oh my gosh, a long time ago. I've been writing since I was a child. But the books were written in 1996, both of them.
Hold one up at a time and tell us about the book.
Have Sale Will Travel. I did estate sales in Leisure World for 14 years. So these are my experiences on how to save hiring someone. And the illustrations are by my best friend's son. And The Secrets of an Estate Sale Agent. And I sold a whole bunch of them.
And is that
The other book
Yeah.
I wrote for my grandson Alexander. And you're going to look at that and say, it's not spelled correctly. It's spelled correctly if you're a Latvian.
If you're a what?
Latvian. My son-in-law was Latvian, so you drop the E. So Alexandr is how my grandson spells his name. And I wrote it for my grandson. And I had to find an cartoonist, an illustrator. So I went to Holmes and I wrote for my grandson, but I am not an artist. Zip. Went to Barnes and Nobles and met a lady who worked there, and I said, I need an illustrator. She said, my son is an illustrator, Anthony Kuhn. And I hired him, and we worked together at Barnes and Nobles, and he illustrated my poems. And it's about a story of a boy that goes on trips. That's why the camel's here. The camel with my family.
Oh.
We laid it, they all laid it out. But this is a big word book. They also taught school with a vocabularial. I don't speak Spanish, but I had it translated, all the words, so it could be used as a teaching aid. Okay?
Bilingual book.
It's a bilingual book. I never...
Okay.
Can you tell us your name?
Yeah, my name is Tom Ponczak. I'm a poet and a marathon runner. So it's only meant to amuse and entertain you. It's I took the 100 greatest movies, as selected by the American Film Institute, the 100 greatest movies, and condensed the essence of that movie into a page of poetry. Pick your favorite movie and you can read it, and it reels again in your mind. Most people our age have seen every movie here. It starts with Citizen Kane, ends with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and everything is inside. Casablanca, Star Wars, E.T., Gone with the Wind, King Kong.
When did you start writing? Did you do any writing?
I've written poetry most of my life, but I started seriously doing the last 20 years after my divorce. I felt free to do what I wanted to do. I met my present wife, and she liberated me in many ways.
So did she encourage you to write?
She did. She encouraged me to write, to go back to school. I went to college when I was 60, graduated when I was 64, worked for the college, wrote the book.
What did you study?
I got a degree in psychology and gerontology. I worked on staff for 10 years, raising money for the university. I've run 270 marathons besides that, in my spare time.
Kazuko Manobe.
And when did you start writing?
Oh, just about 5 years ago. It's quite recent.
After retirement?
Oh yes, especially in English.
And I was reading, tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, I was born in Japan and raised there, and I was taught, Americans were demons, really scary people, So I thought Americans are very cruel, scary people. Then I came here, and then I realized...
What year did you come here?
1958. Long time ago. Then I realized that everything I was taught was wrong. So I fell in love with America. So I found each day I found nice things, very wonderful things about America each day for the past 50 years. This is about my memoir, my childhood, and also during the war we went through a terrible food shortage and all that, but we gradually recovered. You know, during the war, you know, we had nothing but sweet potatoes and pumpkins, and they actually saved us.
How long have you lived in Leisure World?
2.5 years. 2.5 years.
Where did you move here from?
Okay. First, I came to Long Beach many years ago. Okay, I came to Long Beach from Japan. Then we went to Utah, northern Utah.
Well, that must have been a real culture shock.
Very cold place, and then it's a totally different community.
Yeah.
I spent 35 years there. Yeah. Then finally I said, it's getting too cold. You know, it's affecting my arthritis and my shoulders. So, you know where I went? We went to Henderson, Nevada. Very hot place, warm place. Then we spent a little bit over 10 years.
And what got you here to Leisure World?
Well, my husband stopped driving. Then I checked all over, and this community has a bus service in and out of the community. And also, our primary doctor recommended to come here because of my husband's situation, you know. So
Good. Okay, well, thank you. The cover is just beautiful.
thank you very much.
Your name?
My name is Noelle Markham.
And
Now,
how long
that's
have
not
you
my
been
real
writing?
name, but that's the name I write under. So let's call me Noelle Markham for today.
How long have you been writing?
I have been writing for many years. I used to write plays. I used to write comedies. And but I just started writing mysteries. And actually this is a thriller, not just a mystery. And I did that in, let's say I've done that since it's about 1.5 years.
And tell us a little bit about your background.
My background.
Oh, you did just a little bit more.
Okay, I have a fascinating background. Yeah, let's see. I was born and then I was raised. I'm from California, and I'm from this part of California, Southern California. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I graduated from Cal State University of Fullerton. I have a master's degree in special education. I taught school for a while. I taught people how to read, how to punctuate, how to understand grammar. I'm sure those were your favorite subjects in school. And that's, of course, very helpful when you write, is that you do know how to do all these things. You know, so that's helpful.
Were you ever an editor?
Oh gosh, no. No, I'm not a good editor. I'm a good writer, but I'm not a good editor. Do you want to know what my book is about?
Yes, I do. I want
Okay.
you to tell us about your book.
Okay. I can read here. It says, sexy and talented real estate agent and artist Linda McAdams is thrown into a world of crime and madness when she discovers she's the trustee of her parents' estate. Assets are missing. Evidence suggests that her father, a successful real estate broker, dabbled in stolen and forged art. Over $1 million of paintings are missing from her parents' home. So she starts to look for these things. She has to. She's the trustee. And pretty soon she realizes that someone's trying to kill her. And so she has to figure out who's trying to kill her, and we hope, of course, that they don't make it. But you'll have to buy the book and find out.
And then a surprise ending, because people read, while we're reading mystery books, we always try and say, this one did it, no, this one did it. So it's a real surprise ending. Well, hopefully.
Well, as a thriller is, the way a thriller works is it does not necessarily a surprise ending, although there is some sort of surprise to it, because in a thriller you often know who the killer is. You know, you know who's coming after her. She doesn't know. And so you're hoping that she figures it out before the end of the book. And she does. She does, because I'm writing a sequel. It's called Deadly Anger. And on the back of my bookmark is, read this. I don't know if the video's picking it up. This is all about deadly denial. On the back is all about deadly anger. And it tells you that if you go to my website, you can sign up to win free copies of Deadly Anger when it is published.
I am Joyce Dahlman.
And when did you start writing?
I started writing when I was a child. I love to read and I enjoy writing. And this book, Tilly and the Rabbit, was a result of an experience I had with my dog, Tilly. She was a really adorable little Shih Tzu. Everybody loves Shih Tzus. And she loved people, but she didn't like other dogs. So we moved to a new neighborhood, and I would have to be really careful walking around other dogs. She would always bark at them. People thought I was unfriendly. And one day, a rabbit came into our neighborhood. And for some reason, Tilly made friends with the rabbit. And the rabbit wanted to make friends with the dog. So it was a way for me to meet people in the neighborhood. Neighbors started coming out of their house. They wanted to see the dog and the rabbit playing together. And it was a really wonderful time. Here's a picture of the dog and rabbit meeting for the first time. So my grandchildren love the story about the dog and the rabbit. They love playing with Tilly. She was really good with children. But again, not good with other animals except for this rabbit. So I decided to write this book for my grandchildren. And they loved it so much they convinced me to self-publish it. And I had so many pictures of the dog and the rabbit playing together. I knew that if I could find somebody to illustrate this book, it would make all the difference. And I was so lucky. I had connections with the art department at Cal State Long Beach, which, I don't know, people don't even understand this is one of the best art departments in the country. And I met a young gal who wanted to become an illustrator for children's books, and she took a lot of my photographs and turned them into these beautiful watercolors, which made the story come to life.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about animals, everybody wants to see the animals.
True.
And between Jamie doing the illustrations and a friend of mine, Sherry, doing the graphic design, I was able to put the whole story together and make it into a book.
And when's your next book?
Well, I've written another book about the dog we now have, Mabel, who is very friendly, and you see her running around Leisure World playing with other dogs and people. So I hope to complete that sometime in the next year. It is a great Christmas present. Children love this, especially, I would say, well, little children love looking at the pictures, but 5 to 9-year-old kids just love the story.
Please start out by telling us your name.
Susan Atsuki.
And when did you start writing?
I started writing about 8 years ago.
After you retired?
No, before I retired.
And from what?
I'm a retired international flight attendant. And well, it's a long background, but I was based in Honolulu for years, and then they downsized our base, and we had to come to the mainland. So my commuter apartment in Seal Beach. It was a mother-in-law unit inside a great big house, and it did not have a kitchen. It was smaller than this table, and it had a little sink. So I started cooking with a rice cooker, a hot plate, and a little tiny refrigerator. And my friends kept at. We were all 300 of us had to come to the mainland, so they were asking me how I did it. So one day, my husband and I were at the airport in a restaurant. He was behind his newspaper, of course, and I'm saying, oh, I should write a book. And I hear this voice saying, why don't you? So I did. And by the time I got home, I had the name Kitchenless Cooking, and that stuck with the book. So here's my story. This is my flight attendant days, this is my Hawaii days, and there's my stove for kitchenless cooking. Anything you can do on a stove or an oven, I can do in a rice cooker, including Thanksgiving dinner.
Wow. I know someone who lives without a kitchen.
This is for people who are just starting out or over, downsizing, perfect for Leisure World because the recipes are all for 1 or 2 people. They're not. It's not like serve 6 or serves 8. I've made them use, what's the word? They're very easy to use. Is the word. So.
It's probably good for Leisure World people who shouldn't be using the stove. We've had a couple fires recently.
Yes, I've heard that. Well, it can all be done in a rice cooker or a slow cooker too. It just takes a little bit longer in a slow cooker. So if you want it quickly in a rice cooker, but there's casseroles, enchiladas, anything at all. There's a whole coffee cup collection in here, things you can make in a coffee cup, including chocolate cake. All made in a coffee cup.
And how did you discover all these different recipes?
Well, I've always loved to cook. My grandmother owned a restaurant. She was Hungarian, and she owned a Hungarian restaurant. So I've always loved to cook, but these are either I've written them myself, or people that have given them to me, I give them credit for it. So everybody has, if it's something like Lynn's lava choke dip is an hot artichoke dip, which is delicious. That was from my neighbor in Seal Beach. So now that we're in Leisure World, I have a stove, but I keep reverting back to my rice cooker.